Hello and welcome to The Wandering. Today we are traveling to Baja California Norte to a place called Puerto Nuevo, which is supposed to have some of the most amazing lobster ever. My dad and I are going to drive down there in my truck in the pouring rain in the middle of a blizzard in California. And we're going to see if the lobster is everything it's cracked up to be. Today on The Wandering. So I decided out of the blue that I wanted to go to Puerto Nuevo. And the reason was because during the past few months, I've been feeling very nostalgic. I've also been going through some stuff in my personal life. I got a big promotion at work that was contingent on me passing all these different tests. So it was a very stressful time. In addition to all that, the Instagram algorithm figured out that I love Mexico and that I suffer from this nostalgia about Mexico. And because of the things that were going on in my personal life, I was listening to a lot of Latin music, a lot of Cuban salsa. I really love the Buena Vista Social Club. And then I also love trio music. It's a very jazzy type of Mexican music, and it's all about romance and love and heartbreak. And so I've been listening to this stuff ad nauseum for the past few months. And all I wanted to do was go to a place and be able to listen to a trio. I've been looking in Mexico City and in Guadalajara, but because of timing and whatnot, I wasn't able to go to any of those places. So the next best thing was Puerto Nuevo. I've heard all my life of how amazing the lobster is. It's really only about 4 hours away from me, and I've never had the chance to go there. So in the middle of the night, after we had been sick for a few days, I was talking to my mom and dad, and I was telling them, I'm gonna go to Puerto Nuevo. And my mom says, you should take your dad. And I said, well, it's raining, there's blizzards in the mountain. Really, there's never been worse weather conditions in California. Are you sure you want to go? It's going to be kind of dangerous. And my dad said, you know, I'm always up for an adventure. So he came to my house at 5 a.m. and we were off. So we actually drove through downtown LA, and thankfully we missed the LA traffic. And I think we probably traversed LA, and by like 6:08 or something like that, we were already through downtown, which was really good. We were doing really good time. Meanwhile, in the LA area, there was all this rain. I mean, we've been having this year and part of last year a ton of rain after having a drought for months and months and months. And then on top of that, in the mountains, there was an actual blizzard. And you gotta know that in California, we do not get blizzards. As soon as we got past LA, the weather stopped. The skies opened up. The skies were blue all the way to San Diego. All right, we're doing an amazing time. It is 8:02, and we are right outside of San Diego. So we'll be to the border in probably about
29 miles, continue straight.
29 miles. Wait, no, that's 29 miles to the border? It's 29 miles to the border. It's about half an hour. We'll be at the border. And then we'll see how long it takes to cross. But look at this. It's not that much traffic. Not that much traffic at all. And we're doing really good time. And I thought, you know, it's probably gonna take a couple hours to go through customs. It's a Friday, but man, I was wrong. We went right through the border. So we made it across the border, except I was filming in Aduana, and they did not like that. And they pulled us over and made me delete the video. So, hopefully the rest of this trip will go smooth. I was recording at customs, and one of the Mexican authorities stopped us and said, you can't be recording here, look at the signs. And I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't see the sign. He made me pull out my camera, find the video, and delete it. And I said, hey, you know what? The last people I want trouble with is the Mexican authorities. So let me go ahead and delete this video. And then off we went. You can see as we're crossing over, one of the first things you see over to the right is Trump's border wall. And the reason I know that's Trump's border wall is because of the way it's constructed. So it's a big metal fence, and it's got slats. That was a request to the Border Patrol agents because they want to be able to see what's on the other side of the wall. And so we're driving through, we can see this wall. It's massive, going all the way to the ocean. So we keep driving, and you can see here to the left and to the right, there's all these new developments. There never used to be anything here, but I think a lot of Americans are deciding to retire in Mexico, so they're building all these new developments. So it was really nice. And finally, we arrived at Puerto Nuevo, but because there was no traffic or anything, we got there super early. I mean, it must have been like 9:30 a.m. And Puerto Nuevo is shaped kind of like a big U. So as we come in, what you see is a bunch of salespeople trying to flag you down. And I mean, every restaurant had a guy out there trying to flag people down, trying to get them to their restaurant. So we were really early, and I didn't necessarily want breakfast. Like, I wanted more like the lunch thing. So I told my dad, hey, since we're here so early, I've never been to La Bufadora in Ensenada. La Bufadora is kind of like this blowhole that blows water like, I don't know, 50 feet into the air or something. Supposedly, it's supposed to be really cool. I said, hey, I looked it up. We're only about an hour and a half away. Why don't we drive there first, spend some time, and then come back? So my dad was game. So we came out of the U and started driving to Ensenada. So we get to Ensenada, and Ensenada has changed a lot since the last time I was there. I was probably there more than 25, 26 years ago, and when I went, there was nothing there. I mean, it was a little fishing village, but now it's changed a lot. There's a lot of really cool restaurants. You can see some new construction, some new developments. You can see here to the right is the Disney cruise liner, which is actually pretty impressive. So you can see people, a little bit later on when we're driving back, you can see people getting off and going to the shops and going to the restaurants. So it was really nice. Now, just to preface this, the State Department of the United States has issued a warning telling Americans not to go into any place south of the border that's like a non-touristy area. So we're driving to La Bufadora, and La Bufadora, we have to cross all the way through Ensenada, past the touristy part to like the actual town. And so as we're driving, all of a sudden the truck starts jerking. And I was like, what the heck? There's no lights, there's no check engine. So we pull over to the side of the road. And of course I don't have footage of it because I was really freaking out. And so we thought that maybe one of the motor mounts was broken. So we're checking, we can't find anything wrong. And so I go on to the phone and try to find a mechanic. And so I see that there's a mechanic about 5 minutes away. But the mechanic is located in the place where State Department is saying not to go. And so we're in the hood of Ensenada, and we asked this poor mechanic if he can help us out and see if there's anything wrong with the car. So we go, and he was nice and kind enough to get under the truck, take a look. He checked the motor mounts, he checked the undercarriage of the truck, and while he was under there, he started laughing. And I asked him, hey, what's so funny? And he said, this thing looks like it's brand new. I mean, it looks like you just pulled it off the showroom. What year is this? And I'm like, oh, it's a 2017. And so he thought it was hilarious. After that, he had a smile. But we revved the engine. We found that the motor mounts were fine. There was really nothing wrong with the vehicle. So we thought, let's just go to the local gas station. Maybe it needs a little bit of oil. It was a little low. So we put about half a quart of oil in there. And then we said, you know, there's a Chrysler dealership on the other end of town. So let's abandon this idea of La Bufadora. Let's drive back to the touristy end of town, and we'll have somebody at the dealership check it. Well, as we were driving, the jerking just kind of like went away. It just went away. And so by the time we got to where the dealership was, I said, well, why don't we just try to drive to Puerto Nuevo and see what happens. And so we drive to Puerto Nuevo. The truck jerks like once, and then that's it. It's done. So we get to Puerto Nuevo and decide to go to this place called Villa Ortega. And this place is beautiful. Probably the most beautiful thing about it is that it has its own parking lot. So you can park your truck or your car inside in their parking lot. And as we're approaching, the first thing you see is a big window, and you can see right into the kitchen. And so you can see that they're preparing chile rellenos. And then on the other side, you can see them making fresh tortillas. So they're flattening out the dough, they're cooking it right there on the stove. Then as you walk in, there is people to greet you. And so they ask us where we want to sit. Do we want to sit inside or on the terrace? So of course we want to sit on the terrace. And as we were walking into this place, I mean, it is just absolutely beautiful. It's on this hill, so you look down and you're right on top of the oceans. You can hear the waves crashing. And on the way down, my dad and I were just talking and talking and talking. But when we got to this place, we couldn't even talk. We were just sitting there, relaxing, admiring the beauty of this place. Well, every type of Mexican music that you can think of was represented at this place. I mean, they had mariachi band, norteño band, and they had a trio. And as the trio was walking in, I heard the guy play this lead part to a song that I really, really love. It's called Cinti, and it's a really challenging lead to play. So what happens a lot of times is when you hire these trio guys at restaurants, they play this lead part with maybe like 50% accuracy. But this guy was pretty good, and he was playing like probably 80 to 90% accuracy on this lead. And so that just made me really happy because this is exactly what I was looking for. I kid you not. I was dreaming about just being able to sit in a place, have these trio guys play. I didn't even know that Villa Ortega had live music. It's one thing I didn't expect, but they walked up to us and asked if we want a song. So of course I said yes. And they said, "What song?" "Well, I heard you playing Sin Ti. Why don't you go ahead and play that one?" So this is the song. It's the guy singing to his lover. "Without you, I don't think that I'll be able to live. I don't think that I'll be able to continue if you're not next to me," in essence. It's a beautiful song. And to me, I've been going through some things in my personal life, and when I heard them playing that song, I just felt like it was God telling me, I see you. I see you. You're not gonna maybe get a resolution to what you're asking for right now, but I see the things that you're going through. So it's a really beautiful moment for me. So finally, the lobster came, and the way they prepare this lobster is they actually take the lobster beforehand, they cut it in half, and they deep fry it, and then they bring it out with rice and beans and tortillas, freshly made tortillas, and a little thing of butter. And once again, we were just loving the food, loving the view, loving the music. The lobster was so good. It was so rich. The tortillas were freshly made. They were so fluffy. My dad we had one left over. He brought it home for my mom. And on top of that, they had this really fresh guacamole, which was really, really good. And then we started driving back to Tijuana. And I was just shocked at how much Tijuana had changed. I probably hadn't been there in about 18 years. I think it's become the plastic surgery capital of the world. I mean, there were these skyscrapers, medical plaza this, medical plaza that, ads for plastic surgery everywhere. And it just changed a lot. So finally we get to the border, and my dad had not purchased anything for my mom. And I told him, "You better not make the mistake of coming back empty-handed." So of course at the border there's a bunch of people selling a bunch of stuff. And this guy approaches us. You can see him right here. He was selling these beautiful tortilla warmers that were hand painted. And so he walks up and my dad asks him how much. And the guy says 80. And I said, "Wow, 80 pesos? And the guy says, "No, $80. I was like, $80? Me and my dad about hit the floor. He's like, "No, they're hand painted. They're beautiful. Nobody else has this." And so on started this negotiation, which you can see here.
Pero traigo 500 pesos y esto es lo que me queda. 2, 4, 6, $7.
No.
500 pesos.
No. No.
¿Seguro?
No me.
So they started negotiating. Probably took about 10 minutes. But my dad, all he had was 1,000 pesos, and I tell the guy, "Look, that's $50." And he's like, "No, it isn't. The exchange rate isn't. It's not 20 pesos per dollar anymore. It's 17." And so on the negotiation went. My dad had 1,000 pesos, $8 bills, and then all of a sudden, under his leg, he found 100 more pesos. And he told the guy, he's like, "Hey, this is what I got. If you want to make a sale today, take it or leave it." So reluctantly, the guy ended up taking the deal, but he was a hard bargainer. But we had a lot of fun with that guy. You can see him here. Afterwards, a couple girls came up, and they were asking us to buy hats. And unfortunately, I didn't want a hat. When we go to Puerto Vallarta, we always try to buy stuff on the beach from local artisans. You know, if you're going to go to Mexico, you need to sponsor the local people who are working. And so that was really, really fun. But one of the girls, she called me güerito, which means blonde. Blonde or white. She's like, güerito, buy me a hat. And I'm like, I'm not the güerito. I left the güerito at home, which is Elijah, my son. He is blonde and blue-eyed. And we get to the border, and the agent at the border crossing says, "You guys have never crossed here before?" And I told him, "Yeah, we've crossed here, but it was a long, long time ago. I hadn't been there for like 18 years or whatever." So he checked all of our stuff, looked good, he let us go. So we crossed into California, and San Diego was cool. But as soon as we crossed San Juan Capistrano into Los Angeles, there was a massive deluge coming down like crazy. And I was driving like 50 miles per hour, which I never do. There's water coming over the barricade onto our side. There was a car, it was like a security guard. He was speeding up in front of us. He hit a puddle, spun out. We later on saw him on the side of the road. We saw several cars on the side of the road. So you know what? I just drove slow. And finally we got back home, safe and sound. So anyways, we had a wonderful trip. It was a great time. If you want to go to Puerto Nuevo, the Lobster is amazing. Be aware that there are a ton of salespeople trying to get you to go to the restaurants, but once you get past that part of it, it is really an amazing place. Amazing food, amazing lobster. I really loved that we went, and so I do encourage you to check it out. Anyways, if you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe. I hope you have a great rest of your day.